Lucy Matthews gripped her son Tommy's small, sweaty hand as she struggled to drag her worn-out suitcase through the crowded hallways of JFK Airport. Her messy brown hair fell over her tired eyes, and her legs ached after the long bus ride from the Bronx. Dressed in a simple blouse and faded jeans, she felt out of place among the well-dressed travelers rushing past, rolling designer luggage behind them and chatting on their sleek smartphones. "Mom, I'm hungry," Tommy whined, his 5-year-old body feeling heavier than usual after 3 hours of navigating the city's public transportation. "Just a little longer, sweetheart," she replied, glancing once again at the crumpled ticket in her hand. Gate B47. Or was it B74? The numbers seemed to blur before her exhausted eyes, worn down from a full week of double shifts at the restaurant. This flight to Chicago was her last hope, an interview that could finally get them out of the tiny studio apartment where they shared a mattress on the floor. Lucy had saved for 6 months to buy these tickets, working extra hours as a waitress during the day and a cleaner at night. She had sold almost everything non-essential, including the old engagement ring she had once treasured as the last remnant of a life that now felt like it had belonged to someone else. The job opportunity in Chicago promised a salary that could give Tommy a better life, far from the struggles they had faced in New York ever since his father abandoned them, leaving nothing but debts and broken dreams. The weight of the single suitcase she carried seemed to multiply with every step. Inside it, along with the few clothes they owned, was the only suit she had managed to buy from a second-hand store, her armor for the interview that could change their lives. The seams on the sleeves were slightly frayed, but she had spent the previous night carefully stitching them under the dim glow of a bedside lamp after Tommy had fallen asleep. When she finally spotted what she believed to be the correct gate, Lucy let out a sigh of relief. Her back ached and her stomach growled. She had skipped breakfast to save money for Tommy's snack. She approached the counter, where a bored-looking airline employee typed rapidly on her computer. "Good afternoon," Lucy said, her voice betraying the nervousness she was desperately trying to hide from her son. "Flight 284 to Chicago?" The employee barely glanced up. "Name?" "Lucy Matthews." "And Thomas Matthews." The sound of keys clicking filled the tense silence. The employee frowned, her fingers moving swiftly across the keyboard. "I'm sorry, but I don't see these names on the list." Lucy's heart pounded, and a cold sweat trickled down her back. There must be a mistake. "I bought the tickets 3 weeks ago." Her hands trembled as she fumbled for the confirmation email on her old cracked phone, a Christmas gift from her elderly neighbor, who couldn't stand the thought of her being without a way to communicate. It was at that moment that a deep, gentle voice spoke from behind her. "Are you sure you're at the right flight?" Lucy turned around and found herself face to face with a tall man in a well-tailored suit, his kind eyes seeming to see right through her fragile mask of confidence. He exuded a calm certainty that sharply contrasted with her own rising panic. "Yes, I'm sure," she replied, showing him the email. "Flight 284 to Chicago, 3:30 p.m. The man, who introduced himself as Michael Bennett, examined the email with a practiced, professional eye. "So this is gate B74, not B47, and your flight," he checked his watch with a smooth motion, "took off half an hour ago." The world seemed to collapse around Lucy. Her legs went weak, and she had to grab the counter to keep from falling. The interview was in 3 hours, her only chance to start over, to give Tommy the bedroom he had always dreamed of, to never again have to choose between paying rent or buying medicine when he got sick. Sensing his mother's distress, Tommy clung tightly to her leg. "Mom?" he asked, his small, worried voice cutting through Lucy's heart like a knife. Michael observed the scene for a moment, his gaze softening as he noticed the signs of hard work on Lucy's hands and the worn-out shoes on Tommy's feet. "Kate," he addressed the airline employee, his voice carrying a natural authority, "are there seats available on the next flight to Chicago?" "Yes, Mr. Bennett, but please transfer my miles for 2 seats on that flight." He turned to Lucy, who stared at him in disbelief and hesitation. "I can't let you miss that interview." "But how did you—" "I overheard your phone conversation while I was waiting in line. I'm the CEO of a consulting firm, and I recognize determination when I see it. You crossed the entire city with your son for this opportunity. That says a lot about your character." Lucy shook her head, tears threatening to fall. "I can't accept this. It's too much. I don't even know you." "You can and you will," Michael replied with a warm smile that lit up his blue eyes. "Think of it as an investment in your future, and Tommy's. Besides," he added with a touch of humor, I have way too many miles and nowhere to go." As the airline employee processed the transfer, Michael insisted on buying snacks for Tommy and asked Lucy to tell him more about herself. She found herself opening up about her 3 jobs, the night she spent studying online after Tommy fell asleep, dreaming of something better, and how the interview in Chicago could be the fresh start they so desperately needed. "You know," Michael said thoughtfully, adjusting his tie in a distracted gesture, "my company has a branch in Chicago. Maybe we should stay in touch, see if there's an opportunity that matches your skills." The boarding announcement for the new flight echoed through the terminal before Lucy could fully process his words. Michael helped her with her suitcase and handed her a business card, his smile making her heart race for reasons entirely different from the anxiety she had felt earlier. Once on the plane, Tommy quickly fell asleep against her shoulder, and Lucy allowed herself to cry, this time not out of despair, as she had so many nights alone in their tiny apartment, but out of gratitude and, for the first time in a long while, hope. Michael's card sat heavy in her pocket, like a promise that sometimes angels appear wearing expensive suits in busy airports. And maybe, just maybe, fate had bigger plans for that day than just a simple job interview. Michael Bennett couldn't get Lucy Matthews out of his head during his virtual meeting with investors. As they discussed numbers and market projections on his state-of-the-art laptop, his mind kept drifting back to the determined look in her eyes, mixed with the vulnerability she so desperately tried to hide. The stark contrast between his corporate world and her reality hit him harder than he expected. Sitting in his temporary office at JFK Airport, a space reserved for traveling executives, he found himself typing her name into LinkedIn. The search led him to a modest yet impressive profile: online business management courses completed in the early hours of the morning, certifications in business software, and glowing recommendations from former employers, all this while raising a child alone. Every accomplishment listed told a story of perseverance that made his own successes feel almost too easy. "Mr. Bennett," his virtual assistant's voice interrupted his thoughts. "Chicago's branch is on the line." He adjusted his tie, a nervous habit he had developed over years of building his business empire. "Put them through, Jennifer." On the screen, familiar faces of executives appeared, all waiting for his direction. But for the first time in years, his mind wasn't fully on the spreadsheets and charts that usually consumed his days. Meanwhile, miles above the ground, Lucy was trying to keep her hands steady as she reviewed her notes for the interview. The paper was already crumpled from being read and reread, each underlined word representing hours of late-night studying. Tommy was still asleep, his little head resting on her lap, drooling slightly on the jeans she had carefully ironed the night before, using an old borrowed iron from her neighbor. A flight attendant approached with a kind smile, carrying an extra blanket. "First time flying?" she asked, noticing the tension in Lucy's shoulders and the way she gripped the armrests every time the plane hit the slightest turbulence. "That obvious?" Lucy replied with a nervous laugh, adjusting her seatbelt for what felt like the 5th time. Her hands still trembled slightly, a mix of anxiety about the flight and the high-stakes interview ahead. "Don't worry, sweetheart. I was a single mom too. I know how hard it can be." The flight attendant, whose name tag read Patricia, handed her an extra packet of cookies for Tommy. "Your little boy is adorable. He reminds me of my James when he was that age. Same dreamy expression." Lucy smiled, grateful for the unexpected kindness. It was rare to meet people who truly understood her situation. How did you do it? Raise him on your own, I mean." Patricia sat down in the empty seat beside her, taking advantage of a quiet moment in the flight. Her eyes held years of experience and understanding. "One day at a time, and by accepting help when it was offered. You know, sometimes the universe places angels in our path when we need them most." She glanced meaningfully at the business card Lucy had been absent-mindedly turning between her fingers, its edges now worn. The comment made Lucy blush. "Michael, Mr. Bennett was just being kind. He's probably already forgotten we exist." Patricia hummed knowingly, a teasing smile playing on her lips. 15 years as a flight attendant has taught me to read people. That man doesn't do just anything. CEOs don't usually give up their miles for strangers, let alone buy snacks for kids they don't know." Right then, Tommy stirred awake, rubbing his sleepy eyes with tiny fists. "Are we in Chicago yet, Mommy?" he mumbled, his voice groggy. Not yet, sweetheart, 1 more hour. Lucy smoothed down his messy curls, trying not to think about how much he looked like his father in moments like this. Patricia stood gracefully, her professional demeanor returning. I'll bring some hot chocolate for this little guy. And maybe a coffee for Mom? As Tommy happily sipped his drink, leaving a chocolate mustache that Lucy wiped away with napkins, she let herself think about Michael. There was something in his eyes, a mix of strength and kindness that intrigued her. The way he looked at Tommy, not with pity but with genuine interest. She shook her head, pushing those thoughts away. Her life was already complicated enough without adding romantic fantasies into the mix. Back at the airport, Michael was wrapping up his video conference with a decision made. Jennifer, I need you to adjust my schedule. But sir, the meeting in Los Angeles tomorrow. Reschedule it. I'll be in Chicago for the next 2 days. His tone left no room for debate. A pause, then a sigh. This has something to do with the woman from the airport, the one with the little boy? Michael smirked, appreciating the sharp intuition of his long-time assistant. Maybe, but we also have that pending audit at the Chicago branch, don't we? The audit that wasn't scheduled until next month. That's the one, he confirmed, already shutting his laptop with quiet determination. Oh, and Jennifer? Book a table for 3 at Everest tonight. Something comfortable, not too formal. A quiet section. 3, sir? Yes, a 5-year-old will be joining us. Make sure they have a kids menu. On the plane, the captain announced the descent into Chicago. Lucy straightened her slightly wrinkled blazer as best as she could, her stomach twisting with nerves. The interview was at a mid-sized company for an executive assistant position. The salary wasn't extravagant, but it was stable and came with benefits, including health insurance for Tommy, something she had dreamed of providing for him. Mommy, look, the clouds look like cotton candy. Tommy pressed his face against the window, leaving tiny fingerprints that Lucy discreetly wiped away. She smiled, amazed at her son's ability to find joy in the smallest things. Even on the hardest nights, when dinner was nothing but buttered pasta, when money barely stretched to cover the essentials, Tommy never lost his spark. The plane touched down smoothly, and Patricia helped Lucy with her bag, discreetly slipping a card with her number into Lucy's hand. For when you need a friend in Chicago, she explained, with a warm, motherly smile. We all need a support system. As they walked through the terminal, Lucy's phone buzzed. Her heart stopped at the message. Her interviewer was sick. The meeting had to be rescheduled for the next day. No, 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 she murmured, panic rising. Her tight budget hadn't accounted for a hotel night in Chicago. She barely had enough for a taxi to the company. Her phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. Heard your interview got rescheduled. The Marriott near the airport is expecting you and Tommy. Dinner at 7 p.m. at Everest. Great food, family-friendly atmosphere. This isn't charity, it's networking. Michael. Lucy froze, rereading the message over and over. How did he know? Why did he care? More importantly, should she accept? Mommy, where are we going now? Tommy asked, his little hand squeezing hers, trusting that she, as always, had all the answers. Lucy looked at her son, then at her phone, and finally at Michael's now creased business card. Sometimes Patricia was right. Help should be accepted when it came. But as she typed her response, she couldn't help but wonder, was this just professional assistance? Or was her long-asleep heart beginning to wake up to something else entirely? The Marriott lobby was overwhelming for Lucy, who held tightly onto Tommy's hand as they approached the reception desk. Her reflection in the polished marble revealed a woman completely out of place. The worn-out suitcase, the simple clothes, the exhaustion etched into her face. Reservation under Matthews, she said softly, still unsure about this whole situation. The receptionist gave her a professional smile. Ah, yes, the executive suite. Mr. Bennett left specific instructions. She handed over 2 key cards. Room service is available 24/7, and we've arranged some outfits for your interview as requested. Lucy blinked, confused. Outfits? A fashion consultant dropped off a few options an hour ago. They're in your room, up on the 12th floor. Lucy opened the door and had to grab Tommy before he ran excitedly toward the massive, floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city. The room was larger than their entire apartment in the Bronx. On the king-sized bed, 3 sets of professional outfits were neatly laid out, all in her size, complete with matching shoes and accessories. Look, Mommy, There are presents for me too, Tommy shouted, discovering a bag with us new clothes, and a few educational toys were inside. Lucy sat on the edge of the bed, overwhelmed. Michael's generosity seemed to have no limits, and that terrified her. No one did this much for a stranger without expecting something in return. Her ex-husband had taught her that lesson in the most painful way. Her phone buzzed with another message from Michael. "Hope the room is suitable. Driver will pick you up at 6:30 p.m. for dinner. No pressure, just a meal and conversation." She stared at the screen for several long minutes before making a decision. "Tommy, how about a bath? We're having dinner somewhere really special tonight. Everest Restaurant, 7:00 p.m. The restaurant was quiet, elegant, without being intimidating. When they arrived, Michael was already there, having swapped his formal suit for a dark, more relaxed blazer over a light blue shirt. His smile was warm as he saw Tommy happily bouncing in his new clothes. "You didn't have to do all this," Lucy said as they sat down. She had chosen the simplest outfit, a classic navy blue dress that hugged her figure just enough to make her feel put together. "Actually, I did," Michael said, helping Tommy with the kids' menu. "I looked into your professional background today. It's impressive, considering the circumstances, but Chicago can be a tough city for fresh starts." The dinner went surprisingly well. Tommy was enchanted when the chef himself came to prepare his dessert at the table, and Lucy found herself laughing more than she had in months. Michael had a way of making people feel at ease. His stories about business disasters made her realize that even successful people had their struggles. Then her phone rang, the My Company where she was supposed to interview. "Hello?" she answered, stepping away from the table. The news hit like a punch to the gut. The position had been filled internally. The interview was cancelled. Michael noticed the shift in her expression the moment she returned. "Lucy, it's over," she whispered, fighting back tears. "The job. Her voice cracked. "Mommy?" Tommy's small, worried voice broke her heart. Michael discreetly signaled to a waiter, who immediately offered to take Tommy on a quick tour of the kitchen. "Tell me," Michael said gently once they were alone. Lucy broke down. She told him everything. The months of preparation, the nights spent studying, the money she had saved, sacrificed, stretched as far as possible. How this job had meant everything. A real chance at a better life for Tommy, away from the constant struggle of New York. Michael listened silently, his face unreadable, his hands folded in front of him. When she finally finished, he leaned forward and spoke carefully. "Maybe the universe has other plans." "What plans?" she scoffed. "Going back to my tiny apartment, juggling 3 underpaid jobs again? Or," he exhaled as if making a big decision, "you could accept a position at my company." Lucy froze. "What?" "The Chicago branch needs a project manager for social initiatives. Someone who understands real challenges, who has lived through struggles and knows how to solve problems that most executives never have to face." Her pulse quickened. "But I don't have experience." "You have all the experience that matters." His voice was firm. "I saw your LinkedIn. The downline courses, the certifications, all completed while balancing multiple jobs and raising a child alone. That shows more determination and management skills than any MBA." Lucy felt like the quiet room was spinning. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, almost afraid of the answer. Michael held her gaze, his blue eyes steady. "Because I believe in investing in extraordinary people." Then, after a brief hesitation, he added, "And because maybe I'm a little tired of eating dinner alone in expensive restaurants." The moment was interrupted by Tommy, who came running back wearing a paper chef's hat, with a proud grin on his face. Something between Lucy and Michael hadn't shifted. Back at the hotel, Lucy tucked Tommy into bed and sat beside him, watching his peaceful face as he slept. Michael's offer echoed in her mind. It was tempting, so tempting. A stable job, a fresh start, security. But years of disappointment and betrayal had taught her to be cautious, to question things that seemed too good to be true. Her phone buzzed one last time that night. A message from Michael. "The offer is real. The job is yours because of your skills, not charity. But I understand if you need time to decide. Either way, the hotel is covered for the week. Rest, think." Tommy loved the chef's hat. Lucy lay back on the bed, her emotions a storm inside her. In less than 24 hours, her life had completely flipped. First, the devastation of the interview being cancelled. Now the unexpected door had opened, one that promised not just financial stability, but maybe, just maybe, something more. The real problem? She wasn't sure what scared her more, the possibility of taking a risk on this opportunity, or the fact that her heart raced every time she thought about Michael's gentle smile. The next morning, Lucy woke up to the sound of childish laughter. Tommy was pressed against the Wood Hotel window, watching the airplanes take off against the Chicago skyline. The rising sun painted the city in hues of gold and pink, so different from the grey view of their Bronx apartment. "Mommy, can we live here?" Tommy asked innocently, his eyes shining with the hope of a new life. Lucy sat up in bed, deep in thought. Michael's offer had been stuck in her mind all night. She had spent hours researching his company, Bennett Consulting Group. It was respected, with a strong presence in the social programs and diversity initiatives. The job was real. She had found the position officially listed on their corporate website. Her phone rang. Patricia, the flight attendant. "How are you, sweetheart?" The familiar motherly voice made Lucy's chest tighten. She now broke down, telling Patricia everything. The cancelled interview, the unexpected job offer, her own fears and insecurities. "You know," Patricia said after listening carefully, "when I met my second husband, I was so hurt from my first that I almost let happiness slip away. Sometimes the universe breaks us first to prepare us for something better. But what if I'm reading this all wrong? What if it's just gratitude I'm feeling?" "Honey," Patricia chuckled knowingly, "I saw the way you two looked at each other on that plane. That wasn't gratitude, it was that connection." Oh, sir. A knock at the door interrupted their conversation. A message from room service. Breakfast was being served on the rooftop. Lucy arrived to find a perfectly arranged table, chocolate chip pancakes for Tommy, and a folder full of documents kept for her. Among the papers, she found not just the official job offer, but also information on nearby schools for Tommy, available apartments in the area, and a handwritten note. No pressure, just possibilities. M. Lucy spent the usual morning going through every detail. The boost salary sag was more than enough to give Tommy the life he deserved. Full health benefits, an education fund, flexible hours. It all seemed too perfect. At almost 2 hours, her phone buzzed again. "Care for a coffee?" Michael's message read, "Promise I won't talk about work." The cafe, 3 p.m. Michael was waiting for her in the hotel lobby, looking more relaxed, in jeans and a sweater. As they walked to a small coffee shop nearby, Tommy happily jumped between them, holding both their hands, splashing in the puddles left from the morning rain. "You know," Michael started once they were settled and Tommy was happily distracted with a giant cookie, "I don't usually do this." "Do what? Offer jobs to strangers?" Lucy teased. "No," he chuckled. "Get personally involved." Lucy's heart skipped a beat. "Michael, let me finish," he said gently. "When I saw you at the airport, something changed. It wasn't pity or charity. It was recognition of someone who, like me, had to fight for everything in life." She blinked in surprise. "You?" "I grew up in a trailer park in Detroit," he admitted. "My mom worked 3 jobs, just like you. I got through school on her scholarships, sold her encyclopedias to pay for college. The only difference is, someone believed in me at the right time." Tommy came back to the table, his face covered in chocolate. Without thinking, Lucy wiped it away with a napkin, the instinctive, motherly gesture, making Michael smile. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because I want you to understand that the job offer is real. It's based on your qualifications." He hesitated for just a second before adding, "But my feelings are real too." Lucy felt the air leave her lungs. "This is complicated. There's Tommy, who, by the way, just asked me if he can call me Uncle Mike." Michael laughed. Lucy covered her face, groaning. "Oh my God." "Look," Michael said, voice soft but certain. "I'm not asking for anything except a chance to get to know you, both of you, properly. No pressure, no expectations. Lucy stared at him, her walls crumbling. "And if it doesn't work out," she whispered, "the job at Carfos is yours, no matter what. Contract signed, no conditions. Whatever happens beyond that, well, we'll figure it out." At that moment, Tommy spilled his hot chocolate, staining his barn's brand new shirt. Instead of getting annoyed, Michael helped clean up, making silly faces that had Tommy giggling uncontrollably. Lucy watched them, feeling something warm and unfamiliar spread through her chest. "Maybe," she thought, "maybe I don't have to do everything alone anymore." She took a deep breath. "Yes," she said softly. Michael's eyes lit up. "Yes, for everything. The job, Chicago," she exhaled, "and the chance." Michael's smile could have lit up the entire city. Tommy, sensing the joy in the air, jumped between them. "Can we have more hot chocolate to celebrate?" 3 months later, Lucy sat at her new desk at one Bennett Consulting, finishing a presentation on corporate support programs for single mothers. A framed photo of Tommy decorated her office, along with a small, succulent plant, a gift from Michael on her first day. Tommy was thriving at his new school. Their apartment was small but warm and safe, and for the first time ever, he had a room of his own, filled with books and educational toys. On weekends, Michael took them to museums, parks, or they simply spent lazy afternoons cooking together. Patricia had been right. Sometimes the universe places angels in our path. But sometimes, Lucy thought, as she watched Michael and Tommy laughing in the park from her office window, those angels decide to stay. Her phone buzzed with a message. "Dinner tonight? Tommy wants to make that lasagna he saw on the kids' cooking show." Lucy smiled as typing her reply. Life wasn't perfect. There were still challenges, still hard days. But now, she wasn't facing them alone. And when Michael kissed her for the first time, under the twinkling Christmas lights of Chicago, with Tommy clapping and yelling "finally," in the background, she knew. Some flights get delayed for a reason. That busy airport hadn't just changed her career, it had changed her destiny. And for the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of the future anymore. Because now, her heart, like the airplanes Tommy loved to watch, was finally flying in the right direction.